I like that car.
Mm-hmm.
What's the V55AX?
Where?
What's that say?
W5X.
Yeah.
It looks like a model number.
Looks like it might be a radio station back then.
Might have been, yeah. Might have been call letters for the radio station.
Oh.
What is it for?
Ooh, look at that car. Look at that car.
Ooh. They don't make cars like that anymore.
Yeah, they don't.
You know that's a telephone from back then?
Really?
Yeah.
Yeah, they didn't make those cars anymore. I know you can drive it in the street. I know you can drive down the street.
Oh, we're getting a message.
But I know you can drive it on the street anymore.
If it has a license plate, you can.
Really?
Yeah. No license plate.
This Phillips. Yeah, he passed away though.
Yeah, you did, didn't you?
Yeah. Oh, how's he? Oh,
Are you ready for us?
I don't know yet.
Are you ready?
Yep.
Did you see our old Mitchell car?
Yeah.
He was excited.
Did you see this picture?
Let's go with the picture.
The picture was taken right out there where you came in the door. See right here's you're in this building right now. So that picture was taken right here.
Mm-hmm.
That's right out the front side door.
Nice.
Isn't that neat? That
Yeah.
tells about it. Well, come on, and did you see, another thing that people forget to see in this museum is this. In 2010, we were going through some of the attics, the fiberboard, and they found most of this liquor bottles.
Huh.
They hadn't even been opened. And this one is what's interesting. This vermouth bottle says Joseph P. Kennedy. That was President Kennedy's father.
Oh, wow.
You know, that's when they bootlegged whiskey
Right.
and of course, Frank did. I mean, they drove, but you can see these haven't even been opened. So they found this, and I said, well, if they found that in the walls,
Right.
I wonder what else is in there.
Right.
You know, who knows? Home in the shadow. And you saw where when Frank and Jane were married, her brother and his wife were married on the same day. And Mr. and Mrs. Gibson, that's Jane's mother and father, they were the bankers. They gave each couple $20,000 in 1897. This happens to be Frank and Jane's check.
Wow.
So they dropped 40 grand.
Right there.
February the 18th, 1897. Well, she's waiting for you at the front door. And if you want to go out, of course, you know all about the Altoona house and all that. Go up these iron gates, go up the first set of stairs, go up the stairs and around to the front door. And she'll be there to meet you.
Thank you.
I'm on the history now. This one?
as shut-ins. Yeah, patience. Let me lock this. Should go out the back. Well, you are interested in it. And
Yes.
what are you interested in? What part of it?
The one about the house.
About the house?
Yeah.
Okay, we'll give a little brief here. In 1897, Frank married Jane, and Frank was a barber, and he had a very good financial barber, and he was across the street from a bank, and Jane's father was the banker. Well, Jane's father wasn't real happy. So he said he thought his daughter could do better. So he would allow the marriage if Frank would go in and learn banking, which he and his brother Ellie did do. And their first project out from learning was to go around and sell stocks and bonds for the Chicago Stadium being built. And this is where they heard about Bartlesville, and they came and looked at it. And he decided he wanted to be an oil man. Well, he tried 3 times and was going to go home broke on number 4. And it was a success. Nice. Well, Jane did not like Bartlesville. They were living in the Alameda Hotel. She felt it was a little too rough and rowdy. They had 1 little boy. And about the time little John was about 5 years old, Frank built their first house at 10th and Johnstone, and it still stands. And they lived there until he bought 50 acres of land, subdivided it in the country, and brought in dirt and had the house built up. He wanted the tallest house in the area. And when he subdivided it to people to build on, he said the houses had to be so many square feet, had to have electricity, and had to have running water, which 1900 to 1908 is pretty rare for here.
Right.
And so they started this in 1908 and moved in 1909, and little John was about 10 years old when this occurred. Now there's about $30,000 of mahogany, Philippine mahogany here in the front. This is the mahogany. And this came from Jane's father's Philippine lumber industry in the Philippines. And he was quite an influence on Frank. Now the clock is a housewarming gift she was a little bit of a daddy's girl. And what Jane wanted, Jane got.
Can we take pictures while we're in?
Oh, yes. Yes, you can take
I would take it, so.
You do?
And so, now what they were talking about, the pictures, anywhere you see the black and white pictures, there was a 12-foot expansion, 12-foot out, and 3 stories up in 1917. And in 1930, they had the interior redone at $500,000.
Wow.
Now, in 1930, when everybody was going bankrupt, why would you spend $500,000? Number 1, Jane wanted it. And number 2, Frank wanted to show his investors he was solvent.
Right.
And so after the completion of the 1930, Jane had a photographer photograph every room. And that's how we knew where to put the pieces back.
From when they were in storage?
And they were stored above the garage.
Really? Out there?
Out in back.
Oh, in back, okay.
In back. So that's kind of the basis of this. Now this is the music room. That is a John Sargent, very famous portrait painter. When Frank had all of these oil companies or sites, they were independent. And when he had to put them all together to get on the New York Stock Exchange, they had an apartment in New York. And that hung in their apartment. And it's called Madame Halou, no connection to the family. every night, they pretty generally would entertain every night. And then when the staff removed all
Yeah.
the dishes and everything, Jane would come in and play the piano. And her theme song was Let Me Call You Sweetheart. And so anytime that they would go to a big event and they would walk in and be introduced, the orchestra would play Let Me Call You Sweetheart.
Nice.
Now, the wall covering is silk moire.
Ooh.
The one original chandelier in the dining room is Waterford crystal. And in 1930, all became Waterford crystal, including in her bathroom.
I believe that.
So, Jane got what Jane wanted.
Right.
Now, the phonograph here, Frank paid an extra about $30 to have it electrified so nobody had to stand and crank it.
Right.
But,
You know what that is, don't you?
Hmm?
You know what that
it's a
is?
record player.
Yeah.
Yeah. A long time ago, you had to crank them.
Yeah.
Yeah. But that is, and this is the dining room. And the table will expand. Now Frank, when he built this house, there were so many electrical things, light bulbs. He bought a whole railroad car full of light bulbs. And some of them are still in the basement. I don't know if they work or not, but some of them are still there. But Frank always sat with his back to the fireplace. And Jane always sat at this end because underneath the carpet there's a button which will call the staff.
Oh, that's cool.
There was 9 full-time people that worked in this house or out, as drivers or chauffeurs. Frank never had a driver's license. Now, can you believe that?
I believe it.
Jane did. In fact, she even had an electric car at one point.
Oh, wow.
But the staff could come out, change out the course of the meal, and go back in that door. The stain on the wall covering occurred in 1930 when a bad winter storm blocked up ice and stuff. She called the company and wanted the replacement, and they no longer made it. Ooh. Well, each year, over time it darkens. If it had been like that, she would have definitely done something. Right. But this is, the dining room. And a few years ago, we had to have the ceiling taken down.
Look at all that crystal.
Yeah.
You right down to the cups. Are they all crystal? That's awesome. I used to collect crystal stuff, so that one fascinated me.
And she has so many sets of dishes that she changes out. And but the ceiling, the beam up above the ceiling had given away in one of the bedrooms.
Uh-oh.
And a special historical architectural company, not just anybody can be called.
Right.
We had found that out with what happened upstairs.
Right.
They didn't put the air conditioning drip pan back. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Water damage.
Oh, that's why we've had 2 months of shutdown trying to get it, and we're not there yet. But anyway, they had to take this whole
a lot of damage.
Yeah, they had to take this whole ceiling down, carefully number it. Mm-hmm. And we were terrified they'd mess up the wallpaper. Of course, they had to take the chandelier out.
Right.
And this was a special company that did it, and they got it back up original. So we were quite relieved over that.
Right.
It takes special people to work on this.
Not just anybody.
No, not just anybody.
You gotta have a passion for it and be licensed.
Well, and have some skills with homes, because these are original floors. Frank bought, he went to auction and bought all the carpets, the ones we don't work on.
Right.
And, I don't know who was the big designer. The architect was the one that built his office building downtown. But I don't know if it was Jane that said, I want this in the house. Maybe it was a combination of both of them. Now there's 3 steps here, and we'll explain why when we get down. There's over 2,000 books in here, and they're theirs.
Wow.
That's Jane's father's
You want to take pictures? Go for it. Get out of the way.
on the table.
That's his father?
That's Jane's father.
Wow.
Mm-hmm. Now, if you turn and look at the corner, those are hideaways. Right now, originally the house was heated by 5 fireplaces.
Mm-hmm.
Then it went over to steam heat, and then it went over to central. And so the heating and cooling now is used in that space. But if you go behind that lamp and you press that panel, it will open up also. It's a hideaway.
Wow.
And in this one,
Little hidey hole.
well, in this one, there's a phone back there.
Oh, in that one?
In this one. And it's only the depth of the 3 stairs that came down.
Oh.
Now, the reason why we had to come down was when Jane wanted this room expanded from the first sconce out. That was what the 1917, the expansion was.
Okay.
And the reason why it was not mahogany was because at the time that this was being done, there was a political upheaval or coup going on in the Philippines, and they couldn't get the mahogany out. So it's white oak. But the reason why we came down is this is the ceiling Jane insisted on having. And the architect, Mr. Delk, who did the renovation, said, no, you're not going to be able to have that ceiling because we're not going to have the height. Jane insisted she was going to have that ceiling. Well, they went up 3 stories, that's the clock.
Yeah.
And so the only thing that he could do was dig down.
So he did. Nice.
Jane got her way.
Yeah.
So, and Jane's favorite bird is the peacock.
Oh, that's the peacock feathers. Okay.
That now, not everybody appreciated Jane's peacocks out at Willow Rock.
Why?
Have you ever heard them?
They go, hell.
All night, all
All
night. But that was her favorite bird. And anything else that, now you pitch in if you got a question and I'll try to answer it. These are hand-cut puzzles, wood. They're about that thick.
How thick?
And they're quite thick.
Like a quarter of an inch? Or what?
Most. And these are the puzzles, and there's hidden things in them, like dogs or bells or.
Oh, in the cutouts.
In the cutouts.
You see that?
Yeah.
This is how the puzzle comes. No picture, you notice.
Makes it even harder.
It comes on a little piece of paper, and all the pictures of the puzzles were published on a piece of paper, and that was all you had to go by. Now, she has about 30 of these. Back 2 winters ago, we had an exhibit of all of her puzzles. Fortunately, they're all put together.
Right.
But she was such a good customer that you'll notice embossed in gold is her name.
Wow.
Now, these puzzles at the time cost about $5 a piece, which doesn't sound like much in today's money, but a working man's money might only be $50 a month.
Back
So,
then.
you know,
Yeah.
and we'll go into the,
What did you see on that?
Oh, see on the fence there.
and this is one of the, there are 7 bedrooms, 7 bathrooms, and 2 powder rooms. There's a powder room in the basement. And what's called the summer kitchen in the basement. It's pretty crude. It's just a countertop, and they had a stove. It's where they did the canning and overflow from big parties. But this is, and you're gonna notice in all the bathrooms, they're different colors, the sinks and toilets and things. Here's another one of her puzzles. Now, Jane was a big bridge player. She was a socialite. And so she would have all of her bridge parties here. And Frank occasionally would have a meeting here. This originally was a porch, and then it was closed in.
Nice.
And all the paint colors on the walls, they've scraped down to see, and they've got repainted as close to the original. And of course they had to do that. The house needed quite a bit of repair after Elizabeth's granddaughter moved out. And everybody had been a heavy smoker.
Right.
And so they worked to put it back to the original, that as close as
they can. It makes sense.
And of course they traveled to Europe, and she brought back, and of course this had to be redone, restored, because it was covered with smoke. Now the kitchen is interesting. In 1947, Jane could no longer do the stairs, and that may be here. And so they had to take out the servant's staircase, which is right here, and put in an elevator. Well, in a 3-year period, Jane died first. Then Frank died. He was in Atlantic City vacationing, and he had a gallbladder attack, and he had surgery, and something went wrong. And they sent the Phillips plane to get him, and it just didn't work out. And within a very few months, their only child, John, died. He was coming back on the Queen Elizabeth from Spain, vacationing with his second wife. And he had a massive heart attack and died at sea. So within a 3-year period, all members of the Phillips family had passed away.
Oh.
So
That's sad.
this is how the original servant staircase was. The kitchen is divided into 3 parts. This is the laundry chute. And it goes from Frank's area down to the basement.
So he puts it in a hole up there and it comes down here?
And you open up a door and throw all the laundry down. And have you ever lived in a house with a laundry chute?
My grandmother had one. It wasn't quite that long.
Well, and now if you look at the kitchen sink, you're going to see something real interesting about the kitchen sink. See if you can tell me what you see interesting.
Are you?
Slightly autistic.
I had a child that was. And, Asperger's. Okay, look, there's the sink, and if you see real close, you're going to see 3 sets of faucets on it.
3?
Well, Oh,
Sorry.
Jew.
That's my phone going. You can go up to the road.
Yeah, you can go up there.
You see 3 of them on the left?
Yeah. Why would the sink have 3 faucets?
That is kind of strange.
Yeah, that's strange.
What was the reason?
Okay, hot water, cold water, and cistern water.
Remind me.
Cistern, and all through Bartlesville here, our closest friends live across the street, and they have 2 of them in their house. It's where the gutter, when it rains, comes down to the basement, and it's a big beehive down there, and it's a big tank, and it holds water. And you can use it to wash with, to water
Because
plants, anything but to drink it probably, unless that was all you had, you know, sort of true. But it's a special faucet just for cistern water.
That's interesting.
Now, they don't have 3 faucets over there. Well, their houses had a lot of room, about 30 years worth of renovation. But now this is the refrigerator, this one replaced it. And now when we have the children's tours come through, they think this is the ice cream maker. Do you think we would give fourth graders ice cream in here? We do well to corral them.
Right.
But the interesting thing is, there's a button here
I
that
see
you
it.
push and it automatically will open the door.
Huh.
And look how heavy it is.
Ooh, that is. You want
It
to feel?
is.
Yeah.
Now, the way that
Well, that is
this,
heavy.
very heavy, the way you think, well, that isn't a very big refrigerator if you're entertaining all the time, you know. Well, this is like early Walmart delivery. There were grocery stores in town, and of course, when the butler called in the grocery order, they immediately filled it and brought it.
That's cool.
And that's way back, you
Yeah.
know. And
Now we know who really had the idea.
yeah, and that's how that worked, you know. And they would do they would do any time, if you called 2 or 3 times a day, they delivered. And it was the butler's job to go to the door, take the groceries, check them off, and sometimes even put them up.
Mm-hmm. That's it.
Now, the interesting thing about this refrigerator, when it was replaced by this one, it was given to the Girl Scouts, and they were using it until the house became historical, and then they returned it to the house. Well, it was still working. Then it quit working, and they took the serial number off of the back, and they called up GE and asked them about it. This was GE's oldest operating refrigerator.
That's
And
fun.
of course, it doesn't work now, but
Right.
it did at the time. And this is the butler's pantry where all the dishes are stored. What is this? Elizabeth, the granddaughter, inherited the house, and she wanted a sink with a dishwasher. So she took out this, the porcelain, and put in that. Not very pretty, but she did it. And all of Jane's dishes and everything are stored in here.
Wow.
And the window is original.
That's awesome. You have any questions?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Now this is where the staff stayed and ate. Above the garage, the butler and his wife, who worked here in the house, this is them here. The butler and the valet were both from Japan, and this is them. And she worked in the house. And they would eat their meals here. There's no kitchen above the garage. There's 2 bathrooms up there, but there's no kitchen. So they ate here in the house. And of course, you know, there was the gardener. Jane didn't cook, didn't have to cook, didn't know how to cook. But she liked to help put up the produce in the summer. Don't ask me why she did that, but she did. She liked to garden. The greenhouse out there was a gift from Frank, and she liked her flowers out there. And the butler, being Japanese, he was a real good flower arranger.
Nice.
And a photographer too. He did a lot of the family pictures that you saw in the back. And those are some of the dishes, but this was where the staff was. Now this little box,
What is that?
okay, this is called an annunciator. You would pick up the phone. It's not a phone, it's an intercom
Right.
system. You push the button of your room and the arrow shows what room is calling. And you say, I'd like breakfast in bed, I'd like my clothes pressed,
Okay.
I'd like to be waited on.
Right.
And so that is what this was. And so every bedroom you will see the box and the phone. And that isn't a phone that goes to the outside world.
Right.
Now how would you like to have to do that for a toaster?
That's interesting. Okay.
Have you gotten to ride the elevator?
In here, there's an elevator.
Mm-hmm.
Can we?
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
You want to?
Yeah.
You did?
Yeah.
If our groups are too big, you know, and
Right.
this is where that staircase for the servants went up. And this is the original Otis elevator.
Really?
Mm-hmm.
All right, I'm excited.
Now we have to hold the door real hard. It's real heavy. After I broke my arm, I found I couldn't manage the door. Do you want to send us to number 2?
Where?
And you notice there's even an emergency phone in here. Go ahead.
Whoa.
I'm sorry, King. I thought we were shut down January and February to supposedly
That's all right.
correct it, and it didn't happen. We'll do this right. Yep, they're working, they're painting in there. Let's hope we can at least see a little more. This is Frank's bedroom. And the hall, goes through between the bedrooms. Originally in this room, it had a wallpaper like this. Well, when it had to be redone, they don't make paper like that, but they do today. But it's extremely expensive. So they had a mural artist come and paint the walls to
Match it.
kind of match the paper. And Frank slept in a twin bed, and you see the annunciator there. Now Frank was not a hunter. He was a fisherman and a horseback rider.
Okay.
All the skins and hides came from either animals that died at Willow Rock or were given to him.
I wonder, got links there.
The children love to pet the animals.
I believe it.
They get down and, you know. One thing about Frank, he had a very theatrical side to him. And so when the Ringling Brothers Circus would come through town, going to a town on the Texas border called Hugo, it's called Circus Town. And that was where the circus would winter. And there's very small town. I think there's only one restaurant there, but there's a big cemetery. And it has circus animals and performers in the cemetery.
I've actually heard Hugo before.
Yeah.
Yep.
So when the circus came through, he and Jane felt all the children in town should go to the circus, so they bought tickets for it.
Oh, wow.
All of them. And then during the Depression, when Jane and Frank heard that the churches couldn't pay their mortgage, they collected all the church mortgages and paid them.
Oh, wow.
So, you know, having the money, they were very community oriented. Now this is his bath. Now I wonder what this is on the floor.
That looks like a hairband.
That's
From
what
all
it
the
looks
kids.
like. It's not anything.
Nothing for here.
But notice the barber chair, the sauna. Stick your head around the corner and there's a sauna.
That's a steamer, right?
Whoa.
Is there? Oh, I gotta see this.
And a barber's chair. He would have 2 barbers come early morning. He was bald by this time, but to shave him.
Oh.
And then he had a valet who helped dress him.
That shows you he was, well, got a lot of money.
Yeah.
Yeah, he did. But that was Frank.
Mm-hmm. I'll make sure it's not Elaine.
Yeah. And we will go to the girls' room. The son, John, never became part of the company. Frank tried and tried and tried. And John was sent home from private boarding school, Hotchkiss, without an invitation to return. He never actually graduated.
Oh, lovely.
Gin and cards
Uh,
was his major.
you know what that means?
And so he
Party.
came home and proceeded to continue the lifestyle. And Frank had absolutely no tolerance for people who continued to fail, and yet his own son did.
Yeah.
Well, when he came home, Jane was afraid that he would have to go to World War I. And so another banker's daughter and little John married. And when they did, Jane and Frank built the red brick house across the street with the green shutters, built it, staffed it, and furnished it for them. And one day, little John was out at the country club playing cards, and he ran out of money.
Uh-oh.
And a card shark was playing with him. And so little John put the house up on the table and lost it.
Oh, no.
Well, he sobered up the next morning and told Mama what he had done. And she told Frank, you go buy that house back. And Frank did. Titanic Thompson only owned it less than 24 hours. But when Frank had to buy the house back, he didn't leave it in John's name. He put it in the oldest grandson, who was only 18 months old. He put it in his name.
That way he couldn't do that again.
He couldn't do it again. So that is the picture of John's gone and okay.
Did they take it down for something?
Pardon?
Did they take it down for
Yeah, it's
maintenance?
because they're moving in and out of
They
that
don't wanna
room.
damage it,
Yeah,
okay.
and that white thing,
Yeah.
that's a security.
Oh.
So
For the painting.
Uh-huh.
Okay.
We have malls all over.
That's interesting. You should take a picture. We'll never see one of these again. Not in here.
In 1917, Frank and Jane heard about, you can come on in. Frank and Jane heard about 2 little girls that were orphaned, and they were ages 3 and 5. And they decided to take them in and raise them. And so they have always been referred to as the foster daughters. And this is, Jane kept them in New York until their room could be ready for them.
Right.
And they came, and this is the room they came to. And they came out of a very poverty, they were with another foster mother in New York. And they could have been part of the orphan trained children during that era, but here they came here. And the girls,
You know what the orphan train was?
Mm-mm.
Mary Frances and Sarah Jane, and this is Sarah Jane, the younger one. And they came and they went to finishing school just like they were a full-fledged child of the Phillips. And then when the Phillips passed away, they received each 1/3 of the estate. But they were always referred to as foster. But their names were changed and they took the Phillips name.
Nice.
And I think that was because they had older brothers and sisters, and it was for legality reasons. But now when Sarah Jane was 13, Frank wanted a portrait of her, and when the painter presented the portrait of the girl, Frank had a temper, and he was outraged. And he told the painter to leave town, take the painting with him, and he wasn't going to pay for it. So the painter fled. And Sarah Jane married into a wealthy New York real estate family, and her husband walked into an art gallery and saw the painting and said, "That's my wife." Now this is a copy of the original. Well, we look at it and we wonder, what did he object to? Well, in the first place, as a mother of all girls, the dress, I question. It's a little low.
Yeah.
But you look at her face. She's not 13.
Oh.
He aged enhanced her. She's more like 20s.
Yeah, and you shouldn't have
And
done
that's what, and this is the dress. I mean, that's what upset Frank.
because he did something he wasn't commissioned to do.
But this is the world that these poverty little girls came to.
Yeah, good.
And those are real Bino dolls, the China heads. Now Sarah Jane was girly. Mary Frances was a little bit of a tomboy.
Okay.
Now there's a button on the tiger that makes it roar. Those are called Stief or Stief from Germany. They're not cheap.
Border Collie.
S.A. Swartz in New York had a lot of them.
So the tiger you said is, and is that the same way with the dog?
That's a Swartz. That's it. That's it.
Wow.
And the owl.
Oh yeah, back there in the middle.
And then the bear. Yeah. Most folks can't afford those toys.
Right. That's cool.
You just can't imagine children coming out of.
But they were happy.
It was a real hard adjustment, according to the books. It was they had a real hard time in the beginning, and of course,
culture shock.
Yeah, and of course, Jane and Frank were grandparents' age.
Okay.
And
so they had culture shock as well.
oh yeah, the whole thing for a 3 and a 5-year-old. Yeah. And it's difficult to be a foster child. So we're real careful when we have the school tours come through, because many of them are in that situation.
Okay.
So I can kind of relate to the girls.
Can you?
I was a foster child
You
and
turned out-
adopted
you
to
turned out really well.
older family. You know, my father was on the Tulsa Tribune newspaper, and you know, they were elderly. Dad was 40 before he married.
Oh wow.
So I can relate to these kids coming into elderly.
Right.
Yeah, I got to go to college and the whole thing. Married a Dutch man. And these are the guest rooms. You want to come up and take some pictures. There's curtains down, and it's a mess. I thought by now it was, done.
You catch some of it on video?
But, and this is the other bedroom. This is the one that the ceiling had the beam was in this room. But there's one of the bathrooms. Now, if you were a guest here in this house, you only got to spend 3 days here.
Really?
Because on the 3rd day, she would have the staff come and pack your luggage and put it by the door.
Wow. That's one way to do it.
But you know, most of the people that were guests were connected to the oil company,
Right.
and they were men, and they thought Willow Rock was it. You know, they preferred to be out at Willow Rock. And so we will go to the ballroom. You want to push 3? Up. 3, yeah.
Thank you.
The basement's not very pretty. It's got a wine room, a kitchen, a storage room, and a big washroom, and a half bath. Hello. That was John's bedroom originally when he was here, and then it became a nanny for the girls' bedroom, and it has a bathroom too. And then a seamstress was here, and so that, you know, that bedroom's been a lot of things. And these are storage areas that go back up under the eaves of the house.
Cool.
Now this is the butler's room. He was here for many years. In fact, not only did Elizabeth, the granddaughter, inherit the house, she inherited the butler. And he continued, he never married. And that's his picture on the dresser. And even, you know, when Elizabeth had two daughters, and they just remembered the elderly gentleman that lived up on the 3rd floor. And when he became ill, he walked himself to the hospital and was admitted, and he had pneumonia, and he died. And he was quite up in years. And so when Elizabeth went down to take care of his affairs, she discovered he was a millionaire. He had invested in post-war Japan and other investments local. And so half of his estate went back to Japan to a niece and nephew, and the other half went to Bartlesville charities.
Nice.
Now during World War II, the butler and the valet should have gone to Fort Sill, Oklahoma, because they were Japanese. But Frank felt that he sent enough oil and airplane fuel to the war effort that he could keep them here. And if anybody questioned that, he said they were Filipino. But this is the bathroom for the butler. And we do have a picture of their very first house. That's the very first house Frank built, and that's little John and all of his toys. Now, John had everything that money could buy, but he didn't have his father's attention.
I get that.
Frank waited until he was grown to try to be an influence. And this is their wedding portrait.
Cool.
So, and we will go back down and go out the back door and work peacock feathers. Any questions? Then I'll try to. Okay, then I'll try to answer.
We have service in here.
Yes. Okay, we'll go out the kitchen door.
This way.
It's a very livable house. If you go to Ponca City and see the Marlin Mansion there, have you been to that one? Well, it's European. It isn't even comfortable to think about. You know, they tried to recreate Europe in that one. This is a livable house. You know,
This door?
and then the opening, there's the outside opening, you go into the basement. And then a little, the little brown house on the corner is the gardener's house.
Out there?
Uh-huh. And then the valet and his wife lived in that end of the garage.
Up top?
Uh-huh, and then other staff that lived on site on this end of the garage is like dormitory rooms.
Ah.
And there's a bathroom, and this kind of has a living room and a bedroom, and you know, and more of this room is the apartment. But this is the grounds, and over here. Yes, are you wanting a tour? Okay, go in that last door to your left, and I'll be with you in a moment. This is John's house.
The red one?
And this is L.E.'s house. Now, all of these other homes have gone through multiple owners.
You said that was.
L.E. the brother.
Okay. Did you get a picture of
He
that one?
was the banker.
Yeah.
He had health problems, and so Frank was the oil man, and Ellie, they had 3 banks here, and Ellie was the banker end of it. But that was his house, and so these houses have gone through many owners, but this one has never been out of the Phillips family. That's why it's retained the way it has. So, any questions or not?
You have any questions?
Okay. I hope I explained enough for you.
You did.
Yeah.
Did you have fun?
Yeah.
All right.
When thank you. When you've been off for too much, your brain doesn't work.
No, it's all right.
When you turn 81, it doesn't work either. You saw the car back there.
Yeah.
Isn't that a jewel?
It is. We love that.
We belong to the oldies and goodies car club, and so we're, you know, into the old cars. I'd like to trade our car for that one. I don't think they would.
No, I don't think they would either.
You too.
You still videoing?
Yeah.
I didn't realize at first you were videoing. I thought you were taking snapshots. You get in the video?
Not till I get a car.